Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a technology that is completely shaking things up. We're talking about generative AI and how it's not just changing human resources, but the very playbook for business strategy and how we all work together.
And just to set the stage for how big a deal this is, take a look at this quote. The printing press that literally changed the course of human history. The idea here is that we are right in the middle of that kind of moment. A massive, fundamental shift.
So when the stakes are that high, it's really no surprise that a global competition has totally erupted. But if we look past all the headlines about tech giants going head-to-head, what does this AI arms race actually mean for you, for your job, and for your company?
So let's start right there with the competitive landscape. Because when ChatGPT was released to the public, it wasn't just another product launch. No, it was like the starting pistol for a brand new global arms race.
And you can see, this is not just a Silicon Valley thing. You've got Microsoft dropping a jaw-dropping $10 billion into OpenAI, which basically forced everybody else's hand. Suddenly, Google scrambled to launch Bard, Meta pushed out LLMA, and then boom, it went global. You've got major players jumping in from China, South Korea, Russia. This is as much about geopolitics as it is about technology.
But to really get what's going on, we have to pull back the curtain a little bit. How do these tools, these large language models, actually work? How do they think? Let's break it down.
Okay, so the core idea is right there in the name, generative. This isn't just about predicting the next word in your sentence like your phone does. These models can create brand new things, paragraphs, computer code, even entire business strategies, all from scratch, based on the patterns it learned from just unbelievable amounts of data.
And the speed of all this, it's just staggering. I mean, look at this. In just 5 years, we went from the very first version to GPT-4. The complexity just exploded. GPT-3 was trained on 175 billion parameters. And by the time GPT-4 came out, it wasn't just about text anymore. It could look at an image you upload and understand it. The pace is absolutely breathtaking.
But, and this is a really crucial point, these models don't just teach themselves in a vacuum. It starts with them basically absorbing a huge chunk of the internet. But then real people, human contractors, are brought in to grade the AI's answers, to rank them, to basically teach it the difference between a good response and a bad one. It's called reinforcement learning with human feedback, and it means our human choices and our biases are baked right into the system from the start.
But there's a huge catch, a really big one. They're called hallucinations. This is when the AI just makes stuff up. It will state something that is completely factually wrong, but it'll say it with all the confidence in the world. And that, as you can imagine, is a massive problem if you're trying to rely on it for anything important.
How massive of a problem? We'll try this number on for size. $100 billion. That's how much value was wiped from Google stock in a single day after its Bard AI gave a wrong answer during its very first public demo. The stakes here are just incredibly high.
All right, so with stakes that high, it's so easy to get swept up in the hype cycle. So let's just take a breath, zoom out, and put on our strategist hat for a minute. You know, business history has some really good lessons for us on how to tell the difference between a real revolution and just another fad.
We've been here before, right? People were literally afraid that riding on steam trains would make them go insane. And more recently, remember how 3D printing or those massive open online courses, MOOCs, were going to change everything? They had an impact for sure, but it was much smaller, much more niche. The lesson here is pretty clear. The tech alone is never enough. Real disruption only happens when that tech is combined with a smart business model that actually makes things better, faster, or cheaper.
And this creates this really fascinating puzzle for business leaders. You see, classic strategy says you win by owning stuff, resources that are valuable, rare, and hard for your competitors to copy. But what happens when the key resource, generative AI, is available to pretty much everyone, and it's getting cheaper by the day? The whole game changes. The new advantage doesn't come from owning the AI, it comes from how you use it. It's about your company's culture, your team's agility, and how you apply these tools in a way that nobody else can.
Okay, so enough high-level strategy. Let's bring this down from 30,000 feet. How is this actually showing up at work, day to day? What does this mean for employees and for the people who manage them?
Well, people are already using these tools for some deeply personal things. Just look at this prompt that a user typed into an AI.
And the AI's response, it really shows you both the promise and the peril. It offers this sort of programmed empathy, it gives some general tips, and then, and this is the most important part, it tells the user to talk to a human professional. It shows you it can be a kind of first response support tool, but it also knows its own limits.
And then there's this one. This is the question that is on pretty much everyone's mind. The fear of being replaced.
And again, you see this very carefully balanced, reassuring response. It acknowledges the fear, and then it pivots to this idea that, yeah, some tasks might go away, but this will free people up for new, more creative, more human work. This is the central argument you're hearing in boardrooms everywhere right now.
So on the good side of the ledger, the potential for efficiency is just undeniable. I mean, think about having an HR assistant that can draft job descriptions, screen resumes, and answer policy questions 24/7. The promise is that this gets rid of the boring stuff and lets people focus on the complex, strategic work that really matters.
But, and this is a huge but, there is a very real, very ugly side to this. Because these AIs learned from the internet, they've also learned all of our biases. So if you're not careful, you could end up with a tool that automatically discriminates in hiring or promotions. And what's really scary is that often the AI works like a black box. You can't even tell why it made a certain decision, which makes it almost impossible to fix or challenge that bias.
And the impacts, both good and bad, don't just stop at the office door. We also have to talk about the bigger, often invisible costs of this technology, the ethical and societal price tags.
Yeah, everyone talks about what AI can do, but we rarely talk about what it costs. And there are three big ones we need to be aware of: the cost to our planet, the hidden human cost, and the cost to our global culture.
Let's quickly break those down. First, the environmental hit. These things run in massive data centers that are just energy and water hogs. Second, the hidden human labor. To make these AIs safe, there's a global workforce of people, like workers in Kenya paid less than $2 an hour, who have to look at and filter out the absolute worst content on the internet. And finally, the cultural cost. Most of the training data is in English, which means there's a real danger of the AI pushing one dominant worldview and drowning out other languages and cultures.
Okay, so we've covered the AI arms race, how the tech works, the strategy, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do we pull all of this together? What's a real bottom line here?
I think the best way to think about it is this. Generative AI is a mirror. It's not some alien intelligence that just showed up. It's a reflection of us. It reflects all the incredible knowledge and creativity we've put online, but it also reflects our flaws, our prejudices, our blind spots. It's a product of our world, for better and for worse.
And that brings us to what might be the single most important piece of advice for dealing with this tech, whether you're a CEO or you're just using it to write emails. It's an old Cold War saying, trust but verify. Trust it as an amazing tool to get you started, to brainstorm, to create a first draft, but you have to verify everything. You have to question its assumptions and always, always apply your own critical human judgment. Because, at the end of the day, this whole thing forces us to change the question we're asking. It's not about passively wondering what AI is going to do to us. The real question, the one we all have to answer now, is a strategic one, and it's an ethical one. What will we, as people, as companies, as a society, choose to do with it? That is the real challenge, and the real opportunity right in front of us.